to talk about Tantric practices and working with the Hindu spirits of the lifetime path. This will be a podcast with a lot of information, so I don't know how many people will watch this, but it will be more or less, really educational and really useful for people who want to follow Hindu left-hand path and Tantra. So, in the beginning of this live stream, we will talk about one thing which is really important. Learning to call spirits is not easy. It requires time and attention. It requires essentially of you to be dedicated to the path and to the current. It requires devotion to the gods and spirits, and it requires understanding. Hi, Nicholas Abdulhamid. And it requires understanding that work with those spirits take many trials and many efforts to be completed before you can truly call yourself a tantric practitioner. So, before we go into deeper details, we need to establish what is the major difference, the fundamental difference between left-hand path of Tantra and right-hand path of Tantra. So, fundamental and major difference is that in the left-hand path of Tantra, people are essentially wanting to reach the Brahman through the material world. They are wanting to merge with the all through performing acts in the material world. We do not want to merge with the all through renunciation of the material world. There are two pillars of the left-hand path: sacrilegious behavior and embracing of the material realm. What I mean by that? Let me give a really good example of what I am referring to. So, if one wants to essentially merge with the other left-hand path, engaging in sexuality is actually recommended in order to merge with negative entities. Eating meat is recommended. Drinking alcohol is recommended. And you essentially need to engage in all of those sacrilegious things, forbidden things, in order to merge with the all. Those are principles of the left-hand path. Those are principles of the left-sided way. And the main principle is essentially to fundamentally, how can I express this? You need to, I am kind of stumbling on my words, I need to think this closely. You need to understand one thing, okay? On the left-hand path, you essentially need to embrace everything which people are afraid of, okay? So, if you really want to follow the left-hand path, you need to have certain material things in order to engage with them and to practice left-hand path. You need the material component to that. Material things are necessary in order to follow a left-hand path, because a left-hand path is based on a following principle, okay? And principle is such: this world is mostly comprised of negative energy, okay? And because the goal of the Tantric adept is to connect to the Brahman through negative energy, it logically implies that if you want to connect to the Brahman through negative energy, you need to engage in acts in the material world. So, there is one thing which we'll discuss today, and that is essentially merging with gods and spirits. So, in all Tantric Ionist texts and instruction manuals, which you can find on the Ion World Foundation website, they pretty much recommend you to merge with the spirits. Now, what it really means is you draw the yantra of the spirit you want to merge with. You chant the name of the spirit and the name of the world where spirit resides, and then after some time the spirit comes, and then you are required to tell the spirit to merge with you. Now, I will explain in detail what it means. This will be by far the longest and the most important live stream on the channel. I plan to stream at least hour and a half in order to go into all of the details. So when you presence the energy of the spirit, initial presence of the spirit, the initial time spirit manifests is always intense. And that is because your aura is attuning to the energy of the spirit. Okay? So if you first time call any spirit, that first calling will be unique and it will be more powerful than the other callings necessarily. It usually goes like this. First calling is intense because spirit is showing the signature, and then after that all other callings are weaker until you reach the higher spiritual level, and then the presence of the spirit intensifies again. So one really important thing for you to notice is you shouldn't hurry when you merge with spirits. Take it slowly, take it easy. This is not a marathon, people. You need to understand that those things takes time. If you do shit too quickly, the only thing you can effectively do is go insane. Rushing into spirituality and trying to take shortcuts does more harm than good. It is not beneficial for you as a practitioner. Okay? So, fundamentally, what do you need for merging with deities and spirits? This is a good question. You need three things. You need appropriate yantra, you need appropriate mantra, you need appropriate timing, you need to relax, and when you feel all of those requirements, then you need to essentially draw the yantra, repeat the name of the spirit, and after you finish drawing the yantra in the night, during the night, simply keep chanting over and over and over. It can even take up to 5,000 repetitions in order for the spirit to appear first time. Okay? When you look into the yantra, you look into the yantra without focusing on specific lines. You just look into yantra as a whole. You kind of look through it, you don't focus on any specific points, and you chant over and over. Today we'll talk about Ayani, Chudarmani, and Havana. Now, video about Ayani, Chudarmani, and Havana is coming on the channel, and many of the things regarding Ayani, Chudarmani, and Havana from my personal experience as well as the Hindu texts will be presented, but in this video I plan to kinda shortly cover the entire Tantric ladder as presented by the Ion World Foundation. I will cover every spirit, every yantra, every experience. This will be kinda elaborate breakthrough of my work with the Tantric entities, and this will kinda be my micro analysis of my progress on a tantric path. So it is recommended for beginners to essentially start with the spirits of the ascended masters. Now, I am personally a follower of the Abhichara school of Ionism. Abhichara school of Hindu Tantra. Now, we first need to elaborate what Ionism is and why every single thing on the Ion World Foundation is somehow related to Ion. Who is Ion? So Ion is name of Murugan. Murugan is the Hindu god of war, also known as Kartikeya, and he is the son of Shiva and Parvati, okay? Or Shiva and Kali, if you want to call Parvati in her tantric form. And so Ion, Murugan, represents essentially ideal human being. The equivalent of it would be Baphomet in the Western tradition. So the thing with this is you essentially seek in Ionism to integrate masculine and feminine, Shiva and Parvati, into the higher being. So, sir, whose guidance on scented masters is suitable for beginners starting Tantra and the left-hand path, and who has zero knowledge? So, let me first explain who the Murugan is, and then we will talk about that. Give me just 2 minutes. So, essentially, this is the goal, to integrate masculine and feminine into the higher being. Isn't Murugan a war deity? Yes, Murugan is a war deity, but he is also a representation of ideal man and protector of the world, essentially. He's like a prototype of ideal human being because he is full incarnation of Shiva and Parvati, and through his father Shiva he received a hidden knowledge of opening all of the ways and all of the pathways into the spirit world. So the ascended masters you should start with on the left-hand path are Ayani Chudarmanian at Havana and Lavalian Gatisaman. Those two ascended masters essentially are ghosts. They reside in Booth Tala for Chudarmanian at Havana and Preta Tala for Lavalian Gatisaman. Now, let's explain first what are the Talas. The Talas are lower realms filled with negative energy. Booth Tala is the realm where the restless ghost resides, and Preta Tala is the realm where especially malevolent restless ghosts reside. For that reason, Chudarmanian at Havana, who resides in Booth Tala, the realm of the restless ghosts, is more appropriate for beginners. So, guys, just to keep it kinda short, so you draw the yantra of the appropriate spirit. Now, I will throw right now to essentially, how to say this. So, I will try, if possible, to show you the yantra on the screen. However, I don't know is it possible, because like this is, weird phone. But anyway, so if you want to summon Chudarvanian at Havana, you go to the link of the Ion World Foundation, to their Patreon page, or you type summoning demons on Google Play. You will find summoning demons app, and there you will find a yantra to summon Chudarmanian at Havana. So, Chudarmanian at Havana and Lavalian Gatisaman are essentially the first spirits you should approach. So you draw the yantras at about 2 a.m, you chant their names, and they will come after about 5,000 repetitions. They will come as intense presence in the room, and what you will tell them is that you want to merge with them in order for them to experience the material world with you and enlighten you. And my advice is to merge with them maximum 2 times a week. Now, I will explain what merging entails. The merging with spirit entails that you essentially, is it any time at night necessary? Working it at night is essentially recommended because the influence of the sun greatly dissipates negative energy. 2 a.m. for all other spirits and 3 a.m. for Adhavana are essentially the recommended times. So what I require and recommend for people is to merge with them 2 times a week, not more, because aura needs time to accumulate that negative energy. Don't do it too quickly. And my advice is to merge with one of those two spirits for a year, 2 times a week, before trying anything else. If you want to work with positive and negative entities at the same time, my recommendation is to essentially work with positive entities during the day and negative entities during the night simultaneously from the beginning. Because if you work only with negative entities and then you start working only with the positive entities, that can create a backlash, and then you need to essentially adapt, which creates all kinds of problems. So I will kinda tell you, for those who don't want to merge with Havana and Gatisaman, how they can work with them. So pretty much if we are talking about restless ghosts like Gatisaman and Havana, you need to give them something. You need to give them blood, you need to give them offerings. If you tell them that you want to merge with them, then offerings are not required. However, once you start merging with them, you technically need to remain to an extent on the same path, and you need to keep doing it, otherwise it can create problems. The reason why I always recommend for people in the first year to not merge more than twice a week is because if you merge with them too much and you don't attune to the negative energy, what can easily happen is you can go crazy. So give time to your system to attune to that negative energy. David Friesman, greetings from New York. Greetings to you, David, too. So essentially, after you finished working with Gatisaman and Havana, then you should go to the next energy. Sir, as a beginner, I must ask, what is the purpose of merging? Shiva Prasad asks. So the purpose of merging is essentially to acquire all of the powers and spiritual knowledge of those entities. That is the purpose of merging, pretty much. So let's kind of ask ourselves what those spirits can bring to us. They can bring wealth, spiritual knowledge, enjoyment of the material world, understanding of the laws of nature, and union with Brahman through the left-hand path. That is required. Your Majesty, Sir, whose guidance on Ascended Masters is suitable for beginners starting Tantra and the left-hand path, and who has zero knowledge? Your Majesty asked this question, so I said earlier Lavalian Gatisaman and Chudarmani and Havana. Vain O'Malley said hello, Vain O'Malley. Amit Anna, Sir, please provide information on ancient Zenuin. There are less information about her on YouTube. Information on her is coming soon. So let's return. So after you finished working with Gatisaman and Chudarmani and Havana, then you should start working with Pishacha Mayakhan. Now, who is Pishacha Mayakhan? Pishacha Mayakhan is the graveyard demon of the Hindu tradition. He is also a demon of ignorance. And you know this infamous Shiva statue where Shiva sits on a little dwarf and dances. Not sits, but dances on a little dwarf in the wheel. The little dwarf in the wheel is Mayakhan. So Mayakhan is important in Tantric Ionism because Mayakhan is the demon who essentially revealed to the old Tantric masters of India Yantra script to connect to the lower realms. And regarding Mayakhan, there's one thing you need to know. Hi Dimitri, sending hugs to my favorite channel. Thank you Bianca for being here. I really appreciate you as a follower, as everybody else here. So Mayakhan is kind of interesting spirit to work with because he essentially is the entity which teaches you in a really weird way. So he doesn't openly tell you what you need to do. he prefers to give you, how can I say, like a completely stupid instructions, and then when you follow them, you essentially learn enormous amount of information along the way. Mayakhan is the entity which, for some weird reason, loves dust a lot and graveyard dirt. Anything associated with the graveyard is pretty much dear to him. One of the good ways of connecting with Mayakhan is to simply draw his Yantra, chant his name, and then tell him to merge with you. When he's merging, and while he's merging with you, you like just go into the meditative state and talk absolute gibberish. That's one of the few ways to connect with him, like really intensely. So, yeah. So essentially, yeah, that's one of the interesting ways of doing so. So the next step. Okay, so guys, something happened and I have to cut the live stream, but I will definitely do a much longer one tomorrow. So talk to you soon, guys. This is really fucked up, but yeah, I am glad that all of you kind of came here. So yeah, I will give a really elaborate one tomorrow, and it will be much better organized, and I will also show you the entries on the screen. So talk to you soon. Hello, Joe524. Thank you for being here. Yeah, bye, guys.